This is Ecotricity's EcoTEC Roundup show from Aotearoa's first and only climate-positive certified renewable electricity provider. We only source from wind, hydro and solar, and we are the leading supplier of electricity to electric vehicles in Aotearoa. Switch today at ecotricity.co.nz. Welcome back to another roundup of news from the world of clean cars and green energy. Thanks so much for joining me. We start today's show with the highly anticipated concept car reveal of Volkswagen's newest electric vehicle, the tiny Volkswagen ID Every1. Due to enter into production in 2027 with a €20,000 target price, 1 year after Volkswagen introduces the slightly larger and more expensive €25,000 ID2 All, it will be the very first Volkswagen vehicle to be built on a new variant of the MEB platform. But more importantly, it will be the first Volkswagen EV to use a new software-defined architecture that's being jointly developed by Volkswagen and Rivian. And if you look at some of the interior images, you'll see that there's certainly a similarity between the new center console and Rivian's current operating system. We can expect some softening of futuristic elements before it makes it to production, but it ticks all of the right boxes for a fun, efficient city car and should fit the space left in the Volkswagen EV lineup after the end of production of the Volkswagen e-up a few years back. But don't expect this one in North America. A vehicle which most certainly will be going on sale in the US, as well as other markets around the world, is the newly launched Volvo ES90, which had its official debut this week. As teased by Volvo for several weeks now, the ES90 packs a bunch of features that are a first for the brand, including a new 800-volt system architecture. Built on Volvo's SPA2 platform, that's the same platform that the EX90 uses, the ES90 also includes a bunch of onboard tech smarts, including a dual NVIDIA Drive AGX Orin car computer, a first for Volvo, that Volvo says will open the door to future autonomous and AI features. There's the usual safety and luxury features you would expect in any high-end Volvo, but perhaps what grabs the most attention is that Volvo claims the ES90 can add 300 kilometres, 186 miles of WLTP test range in just 10 minutes in ideal conditions at a 350 kilowatt fast charging station, with a total range in excess of 700 kilometres, 435 miles in ideal situations on the WLTP test cycle. Pre-orders have already begun in Europe, with prices starting from €72,000. While the future of Rivian's new Georgia production plant remains a little uncertain thanks to certain folks deciding they can break the law, Rivian confirmed this week that its R2 is on track to launch next year. Talking this week on social media, Rivian's CFO, Claire McDonough, confirmed that Rivian is working around the clock to build out its current production facility in Normal, Illinois. It's so that it can begin R2 production at the very start of next year. Moreover, she also confirmed that Rivian will indeed make the R2 available in overseas markets outside of the US. While Rivian secured and signed a federal low-interest loan under the US's Advanced Vehicle Technology Manufacturing Loan Program before the end of the Biden administration to help it afford its new planned Georgia production facility, that's the same program that I should note Tesla used to get its Model S into production, President Trump's current insistence that no more funds be released, regardless of the legality of that edict, means Rivian doesn't have federal funding it was approved for. But, says the CFO, she's confident that the funds will be available to Rivian next year, when the brand had originally planned on starting to draw down on that loan. Watch this space. Sticking with the US, I'm sure many of you will have heard this week that the North American auto industry was thrown into disarray by the sudden announcement of 25% import tariffs on all products entering the US from Canada and Mexico. During his presidential address to Congress on Tuesday, President Trump claimed that the auto industry supported the tariffs, which appears at odds with the actual statements given by US automakers to the press. Shortly after the address, and after what sources state were quote-unquote extensive discussions with the White House, US automakers managed to convince the White House to delay the announced import tariffs on vehicles for another month. But sadly, the damage already appears done, with both customers and dealerships very unsure exactly how much to pay or charge for new cars. As of the time of filming, there have been suggestions that tariffs will be pushed back altogether, but honestly, it's also fudging frustrating, and the stock market seems to have had damage wreaked upon it this week, bearing testament to how screwed things are right now. If you are outside of the US, I am sorry. Some of us did try and warn everyone else. Last week on the show, we told you that Volkswagen had enjoyed a positive start to the year in North America, securing the number 3 slot in electric vehicle sales behind Tesla during January. Now that sales success is continuing on the other side of the Atlantic, with new data confirming this week that the Volkswagen ID.4 was in fact the best-selling electric vehicle in Europe during January. During that month, 7,177 ID.4 models were sold across the region, up 195% year-over-year. A big contrast to the Model Y, whose year-over-year sales were down 46%, the only EV, in fact, in the top 10 to suffer a drop in sales. Volkswagen's ID.7 nabbed third place, with sales up 657% year-over-year. But some folks claimed last week that the reason for Tesla sales being so poor was the upcoming Model Y refresh. But, as a European, I would also like to politely and gently remind the rest of the world that certain hand gestures are very unpopular in Europe, where a protest video projection of a certain CEO pulling a certain gesture resulted in an official investigation from German authorities for its fascist connotations. BMW has officially revealed its refreshed iX for the 26 model year, tweaking the vehicle design, adding more range, and lowering the price. Outside, the iX gets a new front end, complete with light-up kidney grille, and inside there are a few nips and tucks designed to keep the model up to date. But the majority of the improvements for this year come from the inclusion of a brand new silicon carbide semiconductor inverter tech, where the brand says is substantially more efficient than the tech found in previous model year iX. Combined with a brand new lineup of battery choices, the longest range iX can now hit 340 miles, 547 kilometers in its most efficient guise on the EPA test cycle, and its most powerful variant pushes out 440 kilowatts at the wheels. The entry-level price point is also substantially cheaper thanks to a new xDrive 45 variant, which starts at an unfortunately still eye-watering $75,150. BMW was also celebrating the iX coming first in J.D. Power's new EV owner satisfaction survey, but I'm also aware a bunch of naysayers will dispute J.D. Power's veracity in the down below. Just don't shoot the messenger, please. With the US federal government now officially U-turning on anything to do with EVs, even going as far as to rip out existing charging infrastructure at government buildings, there's been a fair bit of worry in the US as to what the future will look like for EVs. But this week we got some reassurance from Electrify America that it plans on growing its EV charging network this year across the US, after demand for its network grew by 50% last year alone. While I'm sure we're all familiar with some of the horror stories about EA's reliability, not to mention difficulties with getting payments done, and a recent survey by J.D. Power suggests EV charging station reliability is falling rather than growing as it did in the previous year. But EA says its plan for this year includes expanding its existing charging network by a further 30%. Last year, in addition to seeing 50% more charging sessions, EA saw the amount of energy delivered through its network soar by 65% year over year. Aptera, fresh from its time at CES at the start of the year, posted its February update late last week, showing some significant progress in its final testing before production. As detailed through its YouTube channel, it's been busy testing one of its production-intent solar electric vehicles at what it says is a, quote, major OEM test track in the Mojave Desert. Carrying out a coast test, Aptera's team said it took more than 3 minutes to coast to standstill from 60 miles an hour, showcasing the vehicle's overall aerodynamic prowess. They also carried out extensive aerodynamic tests and a simulated highway range test over hundreds of miles, with Aptera stating that its production intent vehicle matched its calculated efficiency within a few percent. With a new production intent vehicle being made, Aptera says it's on track to meet its goal of 100 watt-hours per mile and says it's confident of bringing that vehicle to market in the near future. I should note, though, that for now, it is focusing on its 400-mile battery pack setup. General Motors, Toyota and Stellantis have all announced their support for a new bill being considered in the US that, if passed, would significantly impact efforts to lower vehicle emissions. Announced just a few days after the president's speech to Congress, Republican Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio, a former car dealer, has just introduced a new bill that, on the face of it, proposes a 200% tax deduction for wages paid to auto workers in the US. It also proposes that emissions requirements from the EPA be eliminated, along with California's zero-emission vehicle mandates. It's basically a plan to make it easier for automakers to continue making large, inexpensive gas-guzzling SUVs for as long as they want, without forcing automakers to invest in cleaner technologies. It has support from the National Automobile Dealers Association, the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, yeah, ironic, I know, and the American Trucking Association. And if it's allowed in the US, unfortunately, other countries could soon follow suit. But before I get to the last two stories, I have a question. Are you in the market for a new EV? Because if you are, and you live in Aotearoa, you should totally check out our very own buyer's guide at ecotricity.co.nz. It's packed with all the information you need to pick a car that's right for you and includes plenty of details about available vehicles, daily life with an EV, how to file and pay those pesky RUCs, and so much more. So follow the link below and start your journey today. And now it's time for those last two stories. We love ourselves some two-wheeled action here on the channel, and as someone who is personally working on a restoration and upgrade project of a classic electric Vectrex VX1, I love seeing new electric motorcycles entering the market. And this week, I got the joy of that courtesy of Indian firm Ultraviolette. Already known in some markets for its F77 Street Fighter, it's just held a product day in which it debuted not one, but two new models, the Tesseract electric scooter and the Shockwave Enduro. While the Tesseract will give Ultraviolette a way to compete directly against Ola in its home market of India, the Shockwave promises off-road fun in a very enticing package. Featuring a 4 kWh battery pack and 65 mile/hour top speed, it's built for off-road fun rather than commuting, but should be comfortable doing either. And frankly, if you look at it just right, it does have some KTM vibes. That would be if KTM actually made electric motorcycles and wasn't in financial difficulties. And finally, I've been driving electric vehicles now for coming up on 20 years, and in that time, every single dog I've had has enjoyed the peace and quiet of riding electric. Now, a new, not quite press release from the UK confirms what I've known for years. Dogs prefer electric. Granted, this advertorial-esque report was conducted on Skoda's dime, but it examined the heart rate of one particular dog, Mango, the 1-year-old Cocker Spaniel, as he was driven around a test track in a variety of different Skoda models. His heart rate was the lowest and most relaxed when he was a passenger in the all-electric Skoda Elroq. I know this isn't a quote-unquote real study, and I know that there are many, many holes in this news story, but I can confirm, as I'm sure many others can, that dogs are happier in EVs than in ICE vehicles. That said, I know for an absolute fact that if Ghost and Sky, my two lovely border collies, are given the choice between travelling in a car or not travelling in a car, they will choose the not travelling in a car, regardless of how it is powered. And on that note, we are done for the day. Before I go though, do make sure you've hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest in EV news from the channel. And if you haven't switched yet, it's high time to switch to Aotearoa's first and only climate positive certified renewable electricity provider. It's super easy to make that switch, and in doing so, you will wean the nation off dirty energy and onto clean green power that will keep the land beautiful for future generations. I'll be back next week, but in the meantime, do check out the lovely Gavin Kiwi-EV Shoebridge offerings on this very same channel. He's always doing something fun and well worth a look, so do hit subscribe. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. Thanks for joining me. Ka kite! See you next time.